So having covered discovering, adding, preparing your tracks, now it's what you do with the tracks themselves to make them into playlists before you play your set.
Play them. Yep.
So there's two types of playlists you wanted to talk to us about.
Yeah. I think if we look at these two types, then we're going to have covered pretty much everything. So I'm going to look at the playlist for my Australia tour that I recently went on, which is quite a good example of a playlist that I used for 4 or 5 sets.
So this is gigging. This is out there in front of other people.
Yeah, they were club sets, and they were all within like 1 week. So I used a very similar set for the whole tour. And then I'm also going to look at the playlist that I use for my live stream sets, which is very different.
Okay, so before we look at either of them, just talk about why. Why bother? You've got your libraries all organised. You've got your tags. You've got your smart crates. You've got all the stuff we've talked about so far. Surely you can get what you want quite quickly. Why bother with playlists at all?
Why bother with playlists? I need to know what my plan is when I step up on a stage. And I don't mean you need to plan every single record that you're going to play, but you need to have a plan of how to start. And you need to know what your options are when you're up there. If you're up on a stage with people staring at you, waiting for something to happen, and I don't know how many tunes, I do know how many tunes are in my library. 2,500 tunes are in my library, okay? So that's how many options I've got. If I'm up on there on stage, and I'm like, ooh, what am I going to play? Ooh, this person looks like she might like a bit of techno. He looks like he might like a bit of disco. I've got 2,500 tracks here. Where are we going to start? So you kind of got to give yourself a little bit of a limitation of where you're going to go. And I think that's what a playlist can do for you. Like when I show you the playlist from this Australia tour, it's got more records in it than I needed to play within a 1 hour set, which then gives me options of where I want to take that set. It's going to give me a strong start because I know, if I play these first 4 or 5 tunes at the start, that's going to be a really strong feeling for where we're going to go. And like you're kind of going to be able to gauge how the crowd reacts to those first tunes.
And of course you can order tracks in playlists. And I guess this is worth pointing out for people who maybe aren't that used to the way digital software works. You can't just drag them around and say, I want them here and here and here in your library. You have to do that in a real playlist because your library would always order by whatever column it's ordered by. It could be the artist or the BPM or whatever. But playlists give you that extra option to say, no, creatively, this is how I want them. Yeah. And I guess you would roughly plan beginning to end, top to bottom, but we'll get onto that. Yeah. Okay, so it's important to have playlists. And you're a good student, James, because you do exactly what we teach, which is twice the amount of music you need for the time that you're going to be playing. We talked about it earlier, and that's the kind of rough rule of thumb. Although you look at it a different way, but it ended up with the same outcome. And that, I guess, gives you enough leeway to go in different directions, but to not be scrolling through 2,500 tracks.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Okay. Right, let's get started then.
Okay, cool. So let's go straight into this Australia tour playlist, which is a real playlist that I used for some amazing shows, which you can actually watch on YouTube as well. So, kind of like looks a little bit baffling to start. Let me point out there are 134 tracks in the playlist.
For an hour.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean I'm going to play 134 tracks in an hour. I'm estimating, when I have looked before, maybe 70 to 90 tracks in an hour. But they're not all like full songs. A lot of them are acapellas and samples and things. Let me show you the first track in the playlist first. The first track in the playlist is my intro. And I know that when I step up on the decks and we press this intro, that's when it's James Hype time, that's when the show starts.
James Hype.
The way that this intro works is I don't need to do anything for 2 whole minutes. So I know that once I've pressed play in that first deck, even if the second deck is being like slow or I have to like reload my USB, I know I've got 2 minutes to do it. And that's super important. The other thing that's really important is that this intro is dope. Like, this intro gets people excited. It starts off very epic, and then it gets very hyped, and then it's got a big drop. Let me stop that there. And just for example as well, it drops into like it drops into a house track. Obviously, it's not very housey there, but it drops into a house track. So I'll mix out of that into my second record.
I mean, would you even be on the stage when that started on a big festival or something? Or
No,
do you?
no. So on a big festival, like Gucci would press play on this, and then by this point here, that's probably when I'd come out to the stage. So that's 30 seconds into the intro.
Okay, so
I'd also like to point out there's an active loop in here. So even if something horrible should go wrong, and after 2 minutes of being on stage, I can't get the next deck to play, this will go on forever. So that's quite important to note. So whatever happens with this deck, we're good. When the music's not going to go off, and that's really nice to know,
it
because
is really nice because it's a total fail-safe, isn't it?
exactly, like there's a lot of times when you'll go on stage and things won't go to plan, and I know that I can count on that intro. So yeah, that's a good place to start. Where do we go from here, Phil?
Well, I think the one thing that people looking at the screen are going to think is, what are all those lines?
Okay, let me explain the lines. So the lines are used to divide transitions. The way that I play these, the way that I set these playlists out, and the way that I play the tracks are in terms of transitions. So if we look, Walking with Elephants, Crowd Control. You've probably seen that transition on my YouTube, right? That is a transition.
Mm-hmm.
I would almost certainly play Crowd Control with Walking with Elephants.
Yeah.
So they're grouped together, right?
So this is key. This is key to the way you think about your music.
Uh-huh.
You think in
So-
in blocks of tunes,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
little
yeah,
transitional
yeah.
blocks.
So I can group them, and then I'll be like, don't really want to play the box next. What can we do? Let's do another transition. Oh, okay. Let's do Sicko Mode one more time, Losing It.
Huh, that's
They
a
all-
bit of a famous one, isn't
Yeah.
it? Maybe we'll take a look at
So-
that later in the course.
Yeah. So those tunes, they're tunes that I will very often tend to play together. So the way I look at this playlist is, I'll jump around sometimes. I'm not necessarily playing number 1 to number 130. But if I'm jumping around in transitions, not in tracks. So it's unlikely that I would play this track with this track.
Yeah, then just kind of change your mind halfway through.
Yeah.
So I guess because everything happens so fast in the way you DJ,
Mm-hmm.
and because you have got so much going on at all times, it's quite a hack to be able to do this. Because otherwise, you can imagine looking at that 140 odd tunes and they're
Yeah.
not organised like this.
And you can't work out which one goes with which. 'Cause
You haven't got
maybe,
time.
maybe that one goes with that one. Because
Yeah,
there's
no
no
one-
line in between.
And no one can think fast enough
Yeah,
on their
yeah,
feet for a whole hour
Yeah.
set to pull that off.
I'd also like to point out what the audio of this is. The
Okay.
audio of this is this,
James Hype, bitch. James Hype, bitch.
which means I always have that at my fingertips while I'm playing the set. Because not only is that the divider between my tracks, that's also my DJ drop that gets played.
And you will end up loading that DJ drop from just the nearest instance of it in your playlist.
Yeah, exactly.
So another thing to point out about playlists, which makes them different from trying to DJ from your main library, is that playlists let you have more than one copy of something in the playlist,
Yeah.
which is why James can do that.
Yeah, because that's the same file every single time.
Yeah, so if you're planning a playlist for a set, for instance, and you want to play your biggest tune again at the end, just to give you another example of this, you can have the same tune in again at the end to remind you to do that, which you
Yeah.
can't do with. So even if you're, nothing else convinces you that playlist is a good idea, let that be a reason. Okay.
I'm just going to point out another DJ drop that I keep here at the top. I don't use this one quite as much as the other one, so I've only got one. I've only got it once in the playlist, but I know that it's up there at the top. That's
What? Sorry, just quickly. What if it's the James Hype remix?
so. Yeah, that's up at the top. Where do we go from here, Phil?
Well, unless there's anything else specific about your club playlists that you want to point out here, I think it'd probably be quite nice to look at a different type of playlist.
What I would say is the playlist is quite progressive. While it's too many tunes for an hour-long set, I do have the stuff that I tend to play at the end of the playlist. Like, for example, right here, this last tune is very much a last tune sort of tune.
Sometimes I feel like throwing my hands up in the air.
So it would be unlikely for me to go up to the top to look for a tune to play at the end.
So I guess this is good because it means you can roughly move from the top to the bottom of the playlist.
Yeah.
And if you are moving around, it's probably not going to be big moves. It's going to be small moves.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And it's just the same as DJs, and you'll remember this with records.
Yeah.
You'd pack your box with a set.
Right.
You wouldn't expect to play every track in the set,
Mm-hmm.
but you would arrange the set so that the warm up was at the front and that the end of the set was at the back. So you'd, even though you were moving around and not playing everything, you'd roughly move from front to back of a record crate. So for people who remember that kind of way of DJing, James has got a playlist that's arranged. And also the tracks that you play together tend to stay together organically. They just live together because no one ever moves them, kind of thing. Yeah.
The other thing to point out, the fact that there are 134 songs in here, even though it's only for an hour, means I very rarely leave this playlist. If I when I was on this tour in Australia, I don't think I played anything that wasn't in this playlist. So I don't have to rely on the search function. I don't have to rely on remembering what was that song called again. Like, I know that I've given myself these limitations. These are the songs that I'm going to want to play throughout this tour. So that just speeds up the whole process of choosing what to play next.
So I guess another learning point here then is when you've assembled the music that you think you're going to play for sure, and you're padding out your playlist with everything else, don't just throw anything in. Think very, very hard, and make sure that everything in there is definitely something that you would seriously consider playing. Because otherwise it defeats the object, because you're going to have to leave because you didn't think hard enough about the playlist in the first place, right?
The more information you've got in front of you, the longer it's going to take you to make the decision. And that's going to slow down your DJing, which ultimately could affect the crowd's enjoyment.
Okay, so that's a gig playlist.
Yep.
What about the most important thing at the time of recording this, but a very important thing for DJs in this day and age, which is live streaming?
Let's go live stream sets. There are a lot of these. New trans means new transitions, because that's the way that I'm ordering these playlists. Now, in a live stream, in one of my live stream playlists, it's not like a club playlist. A live stream playlist is a list of songs that I might like to play, and a list of songs that I should play, like my upcoming single, and maybe even some old tunes that I've forgotten about that I'm like, I'm going to play that on the live stream. So I'll stream for 2 hours. There's only 56 tunes in there. Whereas with the other playlist, I was DJing for 1 hour and there were 134 tunes in. So straight away you can see this is not the only music that I'm planning to play. So right from the top, it's a similar layout to the club playlist. I've got this DJ drop here. Just quickly. So quick access, it's at the top. And then we've got this again, we've got the James Hype DJ drop used to break things up. Now in this section here, this is a list of things that I think is important for me to play. So Roses, James Hype VIP is a recent release. Do You Still Want Me is a James Hype tune that's unreleased. Afraid, James Hype tune, recent release. This a cappella, for some reason I thought that was important for me to play. This 2x2 tune, which is like coming up on Stereo Hype, the label. They're all things that I think it's important for me to play. So although these are boxed together, that's not a transition. That's things that's important for me to play.
So this is almost like a radio station might say these are the must plays for this week, and they're put there to make sure it happens.
Yep. And then we drop down and we're into a transition.
Okay.
So these are this is a brand new transition, which is why we have new trans. Right, it's a brand new transition. We got Patrick Topping, Rocket Fuel, and Everybody Dance now a cappella. So that's a transition that I created like a couple of weeks ago. I've put it in there like, yes, new transitions, let's go, give the viewers something to see. Another one here, brand new transition, again separated by these.
So do you work on these playlists on a kind of weekly basis and just put your latest transitions and your latest work in them?
If we look at the dates on them, 2nd of September, 22nd of August, 5th of August. So it's about every 2 weeks, isn't it, looking at this? Yeah. About every 2 weeks I'll do a new one of these.
So it's almost like a comedian testing out new material on a kind of small gig tour before the big thing.
So it kind of is.
And so if you haven't got enough tunes in there to play the 2 or 3 hour live set, What do you do? Would you jump around these playlists?
I'm dipping around these playlists because this playlist is different to this playlist. So I've got a lot of these new transitions ones, but then I know that I'm gonna want to do some classic transitions in my playlist as well. I know in my live stream as well. So I know that the viewers, they want to see some of that classic James Hype stuff. So I've got quick access to like some classic James Hype sets. Like a lot of you will have seen my slam sets. So this there, for example, that is my slam set. So I can dip into that and I'll be like, oh, let me play this section from halfway into the slam set. Or let me play this section from halfway into the world tour set. So I have quick access to these classic sets, guest sets. We have various streaming platforms where I've done guest sets. And I'll dip in and out of that. I also have this recently added playlist, which is a intelligent playlist. So this is automatically got every track in it that I've added within the last 3 months.
And what do you use this for?
I'll just quick access that on the CDJs and see if I've added any tunes recently that are exciting me.
That you really want to play?
Yeah.
So I'm getting the sense that your live streams are a lot more loosely arranged and a lot more, maybe the word I'm looking for is not underproduced, but a lot more free and easy. You're not. You're happy to take risks and try things.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Whereas in a club, I feel like I have a
obligation.
Yeah, like with the live stream, the people who are there, they're like, yes, we want to see what James Hype's got.
Yeah,
for
they're
us
the
today.
converted. They've come only for you, and they want to hang out with you as much.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas in the club, it's like I'm trying to show these people a good time. They're not necessarily the biggest James Hype fan when they walk in the door. Like
your job's to make them the biggest fan by the time they leave.
Yeah, some of them are just there because their mates brought them along, and yeah. So in the club, it's like also it's a very different audience. In the club, you expect the people to be drunk, and you expect them to just be acting different, and they've got a much lower attention span for what I'm actually doing, and they can't even see what I'm doing either. That's important to note. Whereas on the live stream, the people they're really interested to see the new DJ skills. They're really interested to hear what I'm going to play. So I like to give the people on the live stream that really new stuff and that really like upfront experience seeing the new stuff. Whereas in the club, I feel like I do play a lot safer in terms of making sure I know what's coming next, making sure. And the other thing that the club playlist does, it allows me to feel safe. Like it can be scary. Like I've been doing it for a long time, but you can still have shows where you're like, oh, whoa, what am I supposed to play now? What am I supposed to play now? And if you're looking at 2,600 songs and you don't know what to play, you're gonna lose it. So it's like a safety net as well. It's like I know I've got something in this playlist that's gonna work.
So it's great to hear that, and it's great to see the structure, because even if you are playing to the converted on a live stream when you can relax, you've still got a very, very tight structure there, a very tight way of moving around your playlist. I just want you to talk a little bit about the way you've arranged that file tree on the left, just to give people a sense of what you tuck into folders and files, just maybe give them some ideas about organising their playlists.
Yeah, sure. So these ones at the top, these are actually ones that are specific to this course. So these were created literally this week for this course that we're filming. I don't know what test is. I'm actually going to delete test because I don't think it's important. CDJ 3000 video is specifically for a video that's been filmed this week. DDJ 400 was filmed very recently. So these are very specific playlists for very specific things. And you'll see the same down here. Like this was for a gig that was in July. Yeah.
Probably in Amsterdam as well,
yeah. Good guess, yeah. So this is for a gig that was in July. This is for my tour that was in February. If I had been touring more, which I'm not at the moment because of coronavirus, then there would be a lot more recent tour gigs in this main directory like this. However, they get cleared out into these old club sets. Look at that.
Oh yeah, that was a busy year, that one.
I can draw for all of these. If I'm like, what was I playing in commercial clubs in 2017? I can find that out. And sometimes I'll do that before a live stream. I'll be like, what was I doing in 2017? Oh wow, I forgot I used to play that with that. Let's do that in tonight's live stream. So it's cool to have this old stuff. Old shit. I don't know what's in there.
I think it's
that's
kind of
really
self-explanatory.
That's really old. DJ Sound Show 2016. Yeah, wow. So that's really old. Old club sets, they're just two. That's a newer version of that one, I think.
Yeah.
Genres. Now that we've got intelligent playlists here made from the genre tags, which we already discussed.
Okay. And why would you use those? What's the use of those?
Well, this is gonna pull in every tune that has the tag.
Yeah. And what use is
Good
that in your
instrumentals.
DJing or in your preparing? Is it just a quick way to get
It's
to
just
those
a quick
tunes
way to get to those tunes all in one
when
place.
you're
if I'm,
maybe looking for something for a new
yeah,
transition?
imagine I found an acapella that I really want to play, and I'm like, ooh, let's go over to the good instrumentals folder and find something that will go with it. I've also got some older genre folders here that I kind of dragged some stuff into manually back when I first set up my record box library. Masterclass, these are specific playlists for videos that I've done on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
But I keep them there because they have really interesting transitions in there. They're really, really hard transitions. They've all got 4-deck transitions in them that I wouldn't necessarily always do, but it's the type of thing sometimes I'll draw for on a live stream.
Okay.
I think...
Yeah, so I
that
think
covers them all, yeah.
the key here is to see how organised James is, because that's not a long playlist tree there.
Yeah.
Because by using folders to nest things, you can keep everything, but still, if you're quite anal about being tidy,
Yeah.
you can tidy everything away as well.
Yeah.
So you're not.
And also, pretty soon, these will get moved to old club sets.
Yeah.
These will get moved to another folder. So
Yeah.
it's the only things that live in the main directory are the things that are really, really necessary for now, and the folders.
So you're not necessarily going to do this right now, because you don't need to. But certainly, if you take inspiration from this as you're progressing through this course, don't just learn the mixes in the course. Think about your library, do some tidying up, do some nesting, and start thinking about the way you would maybe want to organise your playlists in a way that respects beginning to end and transitions you like and so on. Because as James says, it will make it so much easier for you when you're starting to ramp up the skills and ramp up what you're doing behind the decks. Because this is boring. No one wants to see someone staring at a screen or scrolling, do they?
It allows
That's-
you to be spontaneous as well.
Yeah.
Like, because
It's like-
it allows me, like, if I'm on a live stream and someone's like, oh, do bad things, for example, which is like one transition that always gets requested, then I know that if I find that tune that is bad things, I know that in the playlist it's going to be next to the acapella that's bad things as well. So I don't have to. It just makes me able to just react quickly to what the audience is.
It's what people sometimes don't realise. The planning and this meticulous detail is what allows you to be spontaneous when it counts. It's like people think it's just genius standing up there and the right tracks are just coming to your fingertips instantly. And this is the thing that they can't reverse engineer. They can't work out how it happens. Well, you know now. So take it on board and get thinking about how you're going to do it in your music. So James, we've got the music ready. We've got to start setting up our gear and getting ready to mix, which is what we're going to do after the next couple of lessons in this module when we move on to mixing in the next one. So shall we move on?
Let's go.